night is dark and full of theories.
What if Ned Stark killed Jaime Lannister in King's Landing, Part 2? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The War Council at Riverrun stretches late into the night. Maps cover every table, marked with troop positions, supply lines, and the strategic nightmare that Petyr Baelish has created. Stannis Baratheon stands at the head of the table, his jaw clenched tight as he studies the reports from King's Landing. Ned Stark paces nearby, his gray eyes dark with thought. Robb sits with the other Northern Lords, his youth belied by the shrewd intelligence in his face.
The numbers are against us. Littlefinger commands the City Watch. 2,000 men who know King's Landing streets better than any invading force ever could. The Vale is declared for him, which adds another 20,000 knights and soldiers. Dorne's support brings another 10,000 spears. And the surviving Reach forces, those who weren't in the Red Keep during the massacre, still number near 15,000.
We have the numbers to match them. The North, the Riverlands, and your forces combined give us nearly 40,000 men.
Numbers mean little in a siege of King's Landing. The city walls are formidable, and storming them would cost us half our army. Littlefinger can simply wait behind those walls while we bleed ourselves trying to break through.
Then we don't siege the city. Not yet. We need to draw Littlefinger out, force him into the open where our advantages matter. He's clever with manipulating and schemes, but he's not a military commander. He's never even led an army, never fought a battle. That inexperience is his weakness.
You propose we bait him into open battle? How? He's not fool enough to simply march out to face us.
We make him march out. We threaten something he can't afford to lose, something that forces his hand. The Westerlands, Casterly Rock. With Tywin dead and Cersei fled to the Rock with the children, the Lannister seat is vulnerable. If we take it, we remove the last major Lannister threat and gain a fortress that controls the western coast. More importantly, it sends a message to every house in Westeros. The Lannisters, who seemed untouchable, have fallen.
And the psychological impact on Littlefinger's coalition. The Vale and Dorne support him out of expedience, not loyalty. If they see us winning decisive victories while he cowers in King's Landing, those alliances will start to fracture. He'll be forced to act.
The question is whether our supply lines can support a campaign that far west. We'd be extending ourselves significantly. We'll manage it. The Riverlands are secure now. The North can send supplies down through our territory, and Casterly Rock itself, once taken, will provide resources. The gold mines may be depleted, but the castle's stores will be full.
Then we march west. We take Casterly Rock. We show the realm that Petyr Baelish's schemes cannot stand against determined forces in righteous purpose.
The decision is made. The alliance begins its preparations. The army that marches west is formidable. Northern heavy infantry, Riverlands cavalry, Stannis' disciplined soldiers, all moving with purpose toward the seat of Lannister power. They leave a garrison to hold Riverrun and protect the Riverlands from an opportunistic attack, but the bulk of their strength moves as one unified force. The march takes weeks. They move through the Riverlands, past the ruins of villages that Tywin's forces burned, past the graves of men who died in the conflicts already fought. The army's mood is grim but determined. They've seen what war costs, and they're ready to end it. When they finally approach Casterly Rock, the ancient fortress built into the massive stone outcropping overlooking the sunset sea with intimidating grandeur. For thousands of years, the Lannisters have ruled from this place, their power seeming as eternal as the rock itself. The castle's defenses are legendary, walls carved from living stone, approaches that funnel attackers into kill zones, a harbor protected by sea towers. But the garrison is thin, with Tywin dead and most of the Lannister forces destroyed at White Harbor or scattered in the Riverlands. Casterly Rock stands undermanned. Cersei is there with her children, protected by household guards and whatever soldiers could be scraped together, but it's not enough to hold against the army that now surrounds the fortress. Ned sends a message under a peace banner. The terms are simple. Surrender the castle, swear fealty to King Stannis, and the defenders will be spared. Refuse, and the castle will be taken by storm. The answer comes back quickly. Cersei refuses. She will not bend. She will not surrender, will not acknowledge the man who claims her children are bastards, and her brother's death was justified. The siege begins. Castle Rock is formidable, but siegecraft is a science, and Stannis Baratheon is a master of it. He positions siege engines on the high ground, raining stones and fire on the walls. He sends sappers to undermine the foundations. He blockades the harbor with ships, cutting off any hope of supply or reinforcement. Day by day, the noose tightens around the great fortress. Inside, Cersei watches her world crumble. The food stores dwindle. The garrison grows restless. Her children, Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen, are hungry and frightened. The power she wielded in King's Landing, the sense of invincibility that came from being a Lannister, has evaporated like morning dew. After 2 weeks of siege, a faction within the castle makes a choice. They're loyal to House Lannister, not to Cersei specifically, and they see no future in dying for a queen who led them into this disaster. In the dead of night, they open a postern gate. Northern soldiers pour through the opening. The garrison, already demoralized, surrenders quickly when they realize resistance is futile. By dawn, the direwolf of Stark flies over Castle Rock, and the ancient seat of Lannister power has fallen. Ned finds Cersei in the castle's great hall, her children huddled beneath her. Even now, even defeated and captured, she holds herself with queenly pride. Her green eyes blaze with fury and contempt as Ned approaches.
Come to gloat, Stark. Come to see the mighty Lannisters brought low by northern barbarians.
I came to see justice done. You fled King's Landing after your brother's death, after Tywin raised his banners in rebellion. You harbored traitors and supported war against the crown.
My brother was murdered by you. Jaime died because of your treason in arresting Tyrion. Insufferable as he is, you had no right.
Your brother died because he drew steel on the hand of the king and killed a good man who served my house faithfully. Tyrion may have survived his trial by combat, but Stannis and Jon Arryn's investigation revealed the truth you'd kill for. That your children have no Baratheon blood, that they're the product of incest, that everything you've built is a lie.
Cersei's face goes pale, then red with rage. She looks like she wants to launch herself at Ned, to claw his face with her perfect nails, but she's surrounded by armed men, and her power is gone. Instead, she turns her fury into words.
You know nothing of power, what it takes to survive in this world. You with your precious honor, your northern ideals. Honor doesn't keep you alive. Strength does. Ruthlessness does. I did what I had to do to protect myself and my children.
Your protection of your children ends here. By rights, I should execute all of them. Bastards born of incest have no place in the succession of any great house. But I am not cruel. The children will be spared. But you, Cersei Lannister, are guilty of treason, adultery, and conspiracy against the crown. For these crimes, the sentence is death.
No, please, not in front of my children. Please.
For the first time, her composure breaks. She reaches for her children, desperate to hold them one more time. Joffrey, all of 13 and suddenly understanding that his mother is about to die, starts to cry. Myrcella and Tommen cling to each other, terrified. Ned turns to the guards.
Take the children to another room. Quickly.
The guards gently but firmly separate Cersei from her children. Joffrey tries to resist, screaming for his mother, but he's led away with his siblings. Their cries echo through the stone halls as they're taken somewhere they won't witness what comes next. Cersei stands alone in the hall, tears streaming down her face, all her beauty and pride stripped away to reveal a mother about to be separated from her children forever.
I loved them. Whatever else I did, whatever sins I committed, I loved my children. That was real.
I believe you. But love doesn't excuse treason.
The execution is carried out in the castle courtyard at dawn. Cersei faces her death with the dignity of a Lannister, refusing the blindfold, standing straight as Stannis' headsman raises his sword. Her last words are for her children, a whispered prayer that they'll survive and thrive despite everything. Then it's done. Cersei Lannister, daughter of Tywin and sister to Jaime, dies far from King's Landing, and the power she craved. In the aftermath, the Alliance gathers to decide the fate of Casterly Rock and the Lannister children. Tyrion Lannister, the dwarf son who was at the rock when it fell, is brought before them. He's watched from the sidelines as his family destroyed itself, his cleverness keeping him alive while others fell. Ned studies the small man, remembering Jon Arryn's words about Tyrion. Clever, cynical, but with a strange sense of honor beneath the mockery.
You're the last adult Lannister. What would you have us do with Casterly Rock? You could burn it to the ground, salt the earth, and erase House Lannister from history. That would certainly send a message. Or more practically, you could install a caretaker to rule in the children's names until they're old enough to either prove themselves worthy of the rock or fail spectacularly. I've volunteered for the latter role, primarily because I enjoy the irony of the despised dwarf son ruling his father's seat.
You would swear fealty to me, the man who just executed your sister.
My sister was many things, Your Grace, but she was never wise. She brought this on herself. As for fealty, I'm a practical man. You've won. You hold my home. You have my nephew and niece as hostages, though you're kind enough not to call them that. What choice do I have but to swear? At least you're honest about your intentions, which is more than I can say for most.
The Alliance accepts Tyrion's oath. He's installed as Lord of Casterly Rock with the understanding that he rules in trust for the children. Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen are allowed to remain, raised as Lannisters but under careful watch. It's mercy, but mercy with conditions. But when the Lannister gold mines are inspected, they discover a truth that Tywin kept hidden for years. The mines are empty. The gold that made House Lannister so powerful, that financed their schemes and brought their influence, has run out. The wealth remains in the form of existing gold in the castle's vaults, but the source is gone. The revelation stuns everyone, that the mighty Lannisters were living on borrowed time and reputation, their power built on mines that had already failed.
Father would have found that deliciously ironic. He spent his whole life building Lannister power on gold that was already running out. Rather poetic, in a dark way.
With Casterly Rock secured and the Lannisters neutered as a threat, the Alliance turns its attention to the larger war. Littlefinger still sits in King's Landing with his coalition intact. They need to force him out, and they have a strategy for doing so. They march east into the Reach. The Reach is the most fertile region in Westeros, a breadbasket that feeds the realm. Its endless fields of grain, its orchards heavy with fruit, its wealth measured in harvests rather than gold. The Tyrell force is still loyal to Littlefinger. Those who weren't in the Red Keep during the massacre draw their strength from these lands. The small folk here support the Tyrells with genuine loyalty, and the kings and lords are some of the finest in Westeros. But the Reach is also vulnerable, spread across vast territories. Its wealth is its weakness. Protect every village, every farm, every town, and you spread your forces too thin. Concentrate your forces and you leave your lands exposed to raids. Stannis and Ned implement a brutal but efficient strategy. They send fast-moving cavalry forces through the Reach, burning fields, raiding farms, destroying stores. But critically, they give orders that no civilians are to be killed. Villages are given warning to evacuate before their buildings are burnt. Food stores are destroyed, but the people are allowed to flee. It's economic warfare designed to put pressure on Littlefinger's coalition without creating the kind of atrocities that would harden the Reach's resolve. The message is clear. We can destroy your wealth, but we're not monsters. Surrender now, and the killing stops. The strategy works devastatingly well. Within weeks, refugees pour toward King's Landing, spreading tales of burning fields and destroyed harvests. The knights and soldiers from the Reach, serving in Littlefinger's army in the capital, hear that their homes are being raided, their families displaced. The pressure on them to return home and protect their lands becomes unbearable. In King's Landing, Littlefinger faces his first true crisis as a ruler. He sits in a commandeered manse near the ruins of the Red Keep. The castle itself is still too damaged to be habitable, and receives reports of growing unrest among his coalition forces. Oberyn Martell, the Red Viper, lounges in a chair nearby. He's been Hand of the King for only a few weeks, but already the relationship between him and Littlefinger is strained. Oberyn is a warrior and a prince, used to commanding respect through deed and birth. Littlefinger is a schemer who rose from nothing, and the fundamental difference in their natures creates consistent friction.
The Reach Lords are demanding permission to return home. They say their lands are being destroyed while they sit idle in the capital.
Littlefinger paces, his usual composure cracking under pressure.
They need to hold. We need to maintain our numbers. If they leave now, our coalition fractures. Coalition? They're mercenaries, Littlefinger. No different from sellswords except they're paid in promises instead of gold. You promise them victory, but instead their homes burn. How long do you think promises will hold them? Then we need to make an example. Any man who deserts, any lord who abandons his post, will be hanged for treason.
Oberyn sits up sharply, his dark eyes flashing with anger.
You can't be serious. Hang a man for wanting to protect his home. That's not leadership. That's tyranny. And it won't work. Soldiers will face the hangman if it means protecting their families. All you'll do is turn allies into enemies. Then what do you suggest, Prince Oberyn? Should we simply allow our army to dissolve while Stark and Stannis raid with impunity? I suggest you do what you should have done from the start. March out and face them in open battle. You have the numbers. You have the Knights of the Vale, fresh and unbloodied. You have what remains of the Reach's strength. Use it. They want us to march out. That's their entire strategy. Draw us into open battle where their tactical advantages matter. Stark and Stannis are experienced commanders. I'm not. Marching out is exactly what they want. And cowering behind walls while your coalition crumbles is exactly what will lose you the throne. Sometimes, Littlefinger, you have to risk everything to keep anything.
The argument continues, growing more heated. Littlefinger tries to hold his ground, but he can see the logic in Oberyn's words. More importantly, he can see the reality of his situation. Every day, more Reach soldiers slip away from the capital, disappearing into the countryside to return home. The Vale lords are growing restless, questioning why they're supporting a master of coin turned king instead of returning to their mountain strongholds. Even the City Watch, loyal though they are, wonder when they'll actually fight instead of standing garrison duty. Finally, in desperation and knowing he has no good options, Littlefinger makes his decision.
We march. We'll meet them in the field and crush them with superior numbers. You're right. We can't let the coalition fall apart. We ride out within the week.
Oberyn nods, some of the tension leaving his shoulders.
Good. Now, let's discuss strategy. Where are the Starks and Stannis positioned?
Over the next days, scouts bring reports. The enemy forces are raiding through the Reach, but there are signs they're concentrating near the Mander River, specifically around Bitterbridge and Longtable. Littlefinger's commanders spread maps across tables, planning their march route and engagement strategy. Littlefinger points to the map.
Our scouts report a small force at Longtable, perhaps 3,000 men. If we strike there, we can cross the Mander and engage them before they can consolidate with their main army.
Oberyn studies the map carefully, his experienced eye taking in the terrain, the river crossings, the positions reported.
This feels wrong. Why would Stannis Baratheon, one of the finest military minds in Westeros, position a small force at an obvious crossing point? He's inviting you to attack, because he doesn't have enough men to defend all the crossings. He's spread thin from raiding. This is our opportunity. Or it is a trap. Look at the terrain. Hills to the north, woodlands to the east. Perfect place to hide the larger forces. And the Bitterbridge is just upriver. What if he's baiting you to the Longtable, then drawing you to Bitterbridge where he can surround you? You're seeing ghosts, Prince Oberyn. Our scouts have surveyed the area. There's no massive hidden army, just a weak defensive position we can exploit. Your scouts can be deceived. Night raids, false campfires, deliberately visible small forces. These are classic tactics to mislead enemy intelligence. Stannis held Storm's End for a year. He broke the Greyjoy fleet at Fair Isle. This man doesn't make mistakes. If something looks like an opportunity, you should assume it's a trap. Then what would you have me do? Sit here while my army deserts? You just told me we need to march out. I said march out and fight, not march blindly into an obvious ambush. Send more scouts, probe their positions carefully, find where the main force actually is before committing, or choose different ground entirely, somewhere we can control the terrain. We don't have time for caution. Every day we wait, more men leave. We need a quick, decisive victory to hold the coalition together. We cross at Longtable, we crush the small force there, and we bring Stannis to battle on our terms. On your terms. You're walking exactly where Stannis wants you to walk. You're doing exactly what he wants you to do, and you think those are your terms. I've made my decision. We march to Longtable, we cross the Mander, and we destroy whatever forces we find. Are you with me, or will you continue second-guessing every command? I came here to be Hand of the King, not to watch a fool march his army into an obvious trap while ignoring the counsel of experienced commanders. You're not listening to military advice because you've never fought a battle. You think numbers and determination are enough? They're not. Where are you going? Back to Dorne. The Martells have survived worse mistakes than allying with you, and will survive this one too. I won't stay to watch good Dornish soldiers die because you're too stubborn or too frightened to see what's right in front of you. If you leave, I'll have you hanged as a traitor. You just learned that threatening to hang soldiers doesn't stop them from protecting their families, and now you think threatening me will stop 10,000 Dornish spears from marching home? You learn nothing, Littlefinger. That's why you'll lose. Remember that you were warned. Remember that you had counsel from someone who knows war, and you ignored it because your pride couldn't accept that you're out of your depth.
And with that, Prince Oberyn Martell walks out, taking with him Dorne's support and leaving Littlefinger's coalition fractured. Within days, the Dornish forces pack up and march south, their departure watched by anxious Vale and Reach soldiers who wonder if they should do the same. But Littlefinger, trapped by his own decisions and unable to back down without losing everything, continues his preparations to march. He tells himself it will work. He has 65,000 soldiers, even without Dorne. Vale Knights, Reach soldiers, the City Watch. That's still a formidable army. Surely numbers matter. Surely he can win through sheer weight of force. In the Reach, Stannis receives word of Littlefinger's decision to march and feels a cold satisfaction. His scouts have tracked the enemy's movements, watched their preparations, noted their route, and Stannis has chosen his battlefield carefully. The Mander is the great river that runs through the heart of the Reach, wide and deep, with only a few reliable crossing points. Stannis positions his forces at 2 of these crossings, Bitterbridge and Longtable. His strategy is elegant in its simplicity. Draw Littlefinger's army to one crossing, make them commit their force, then trap them between the river and the Stark Baratheon army. He sets the bait at Longtable. A small force, perhaps 3,000 men, positions themselves on the far side of the river. They make themselves visible, appearing to guard the crossing, but not in overwhelming numbers. To Littlefinger's scouts, it looks like an opportunity, a weak point they can exploit to cross the Mander and engage the enemy. Littlefinger takes the bait. His army approaches Longtable, and when his scouts report the relatively small enemy force, he orders his army to begin crossing. The first regiments ford the river, splashing through the chest-deep water, their shields high against potential arrows. Then Stannis' force at Longtable retreats. It's not a rout, it's an organized withdrawal, the kind that disciplined troops can execute when their commanders plan it in advance. The Stark Baratheon forces pull back from the crossing, appearing to give ground before Littlefinger's superior numbers. It's exactly what an outnumbered force might do when facing bad odds.
They're running. Press them. Cross the river and pursue.
His commanders, more experienced than him, but constrained by his authority, relay the orders. The army splashes across Longtable, thousands of men crossing the Mander in pursuit of what they think is a retreating enemy. They're wet, tired from the crossing, their formations disrupted by the ford, but they're across and chasing what looks like victory. Over the next day, Stannis' forces continue their fighting retreat. They engage in brief skirmishes, inflict some casualties, then fall back. They raid Littlefinger's camp at night, sending men screaming from their tents, then disappear before reinforcements arrive. They light false campfires across a wide area, making their force seem smaller and more scattered than it actually is. Littlefinger, inexperienced and desperate for a decisive victory, doesn't recognize the signs. He doesn't realize that Stannis is controlling the pace and direction of the engagement. He doesn't see that he's being led exactly where the enemy wants him. His army chases north along the Mander, following the retreating army until they reach Bitterbridge. Here, the geography becomes critical. Bitterbridge is an actual bridge, a massive stone structure that spans the Mander at one of its widest points. The land around it is relatively flat, but there are hills and valleys to the north, woodlands to the east, and the wide river to the south and west. It's the kind of terrain that can hide large numbers of troops if positioned carefully. Stannis' retreating force crosses the bridge and takes position on the far side. They look tired, depleted, ready to make a final stand. Littlefinger's army approaches the bridge, and his commanders assess the situation. A Vale Knight, older and wiser than most, rides up to Littlefinger's command position.
My lord, this doesn't feel right. Where are the rest of the forces? The Starks alone should have 20,000 men, but we've seen no more than 5,000 in all our engagements.
They're scattered, demoralized. We've chased them across the Reach. Now we end this. Order the army to cross the bridge and destroy them.
My lord, perhaps we should scout the surrounding terrain first. Those woodlands, those hills, they could hide.
I said order the advance. We're not going to sit here while they regroup.
The orders are given. The army begins crossing Bitterbridge, squeezing through the bottleneck of the bridge's width, emerging on the far side to face what looks like a final desperate enemy stand. That's when Stannis springs his trap. From the hills to the north, northern heavy infantry emerges, thousands of them, the great lord's personal guards and the mountain clans, men who've been hidden in the valleys and behind the ridgelines. From the woodlands to the east, Riverrun's cavalry charges out, led by Robb Stark himself, the direwolf Greywind running beside his horse. From the west, more of Stannis' forces, the ones that didn't participate in the retreat, advance to cut off any escape back toward the bridge. Littlefinger's army is trapped in a pocket between the river, the bridge, and 3 converging enemy forces. The realization hits Littlefinger like a physical blow. He's been outmaneuvered completely. The retreating force was bait. The night raids designed to mislead him about enemy numbers, the false campfires meant to make him think he's faced a smaller army than he actually did. Stannis Baratheon has played him like a fiddle, and now 25,000 men are caught in a killing ground with nowhere to run.
No, this can't. We need to retreat. Back to the bridge. Form a defensive line.
But his commanders know it's already too late. The enemy forces are too close, moving too fast. There's no time to organize a proper retreat. No space to form the kind of defensive formation that might save them. All they can do is fight and hope some survive. The battle at Bitterbridge is a massacre, dressed as a military engagement. Littlefinger's forces fight bravely. The Knights of the Vale especially distinguish themselves, charging into the northern lines with courageous desperation. But courage can't overcome bad strategy and worse positioning. They're crushed against the river, their backs to the water, unable to maneuver or retreat. Ned Stark fights in the thick of it, ice reaping lives as it did at the Trident all those years ago. He's older now, slower, but he's fighting for something righteous, to end a war started by schemes and treachery, to restore law and order to a fractured realm. Robb leads his cavalry in charge after charge, breaking enemy formations, his youth and energy making him seem invincible. Grey Wind savages enemy soldiers, the direwolf's presence spreading terror through Littlefinger's ranks. Stannis directs the battle from a command post on the hills, his orders precise and devastating. He's done this before, commanded battles, turned enemies' strengths into weaknesses. This is what he's good at, not politics, not charm, but the cold mathematics of warfare. By the time the sun sets, Littlefinger's army has been destroyed. Thousands lay dead on the field, blood mixing with the waters of the Mander. Thousands more have surrendered, throwing down their weapons and begging for mercy. A few scattered groups have managed to escape, fleeing into the countryside. But as an organized fighting force, Littlefinger's coalition is finished. Littlefinger himself is found hiding in a supply wagon, dressed in common clothes, trying to blend in with captured soldiers. He's dragged before Stannis, Ned, and Robb, his hands bound, all his cleverness stripped away to reveal a terrified man who's finally run out of schemes.
Petyr Baelish, for crimes of regicide, conspiracy, murder through wildfire, and treason against the realm. You were sentenced to death. Have you anything to say?
Littlefinger looks at the three men who've destroyed him. The rigid Baratheon who never bent, the honorable Stark who never wavered, the young wolf who never hesitated. He sees his own defeat reflected in their eyes.
I almost won. That's something, isn't it? I came from nothing and I almost ruled everything. I'd like that on my tombstone, if I'm to have one. You killed a king and hundreds of nobles. You plunged the realm into chaos for your own ambition. If you have a tombstone, it will call you what you are, a murderer and a traitor. And you are fools who think honor and law matter. They don't. The only thing that matters is power. I understand that. You never will.
Stannis makes a gesture, and guards drag Littlefinger to an execution block set up in the camp. There's no ceremony, no grand speech. Stannis' headman raises his sword and brings it down, and Petyr Baelish, who climbed from Master of Coin to King through murder and manipulation, dies on a blood-soaked field in the Reach, far from the throne he tried to steal. With Littlefinger dead, his remaining forces swear fealty to Stannis. The Vale Lords bend the knee, grateful to be offered mercy. The Reach soldiers surrender and are allowed to return home. The war seems over, the realm ready to unite under Stannis Baratheon's rule. Then a raven arrives from King's Landing, and everything changes again. Stannis reads the message, his face going pale, then flushing with rage. He hands it wordlessly to Ned, who reads it and feels his own stomach drop. The message reports that while the battle at Bitterbridge raged, ships arrived in Blackwater Bay. They carried soldiers bearing a banner not seen in Westeros for decades, the three-headed dragon of House Targaryen. At their head is a young man who calls himself Aegon, son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Elia Martell, supposedly killed as an infant during the sack of King's Landing, but actually spirited away and raised in exile. Aegon came with the Golden Company, 10,000 sellswords, who are Westerosi exiles or their descendants, longing to return home. And most crucially, when his fleet approached King's Landing, Oberyn Martell and the Dornish forces opened the gates and welcomed him. Dorne, which never forgot Elia Martell's murder, which has waited years for revenge against the Baratheons who took the throne, has declared for the Targaryen restoration. King's Landing has fallen to Aegon without a battle. He sits the Iron Throne, claiming it as his birthright, and half of Westeros now has to decide whether they believe his claim, whether they'll support yet another king in a realm that's seen too many.
How many kings is that now? We've lost count.
Too damn many.
At this point, we should just split the realm into 7 kingdoms again and call it a day.
This changes nothing. He's a Targaryen. So what? My brother won the throne by right of conquest. The Targaryen line was overthrown. This Aegon has no more right to it than any other pretender.
Except that he has King's Landing and Dorne. And we have an exhausted army that's been campaigning for months. We don't have the strength to assault the capital right now.
The council grows heated, arguments flying about legitimacy and succession and what to do next. Then a sentry rushes in, wild-eyed.
My lords, ships in the bay. Hundreds of them.
They rush outside and look toward the coast. There, silhouetted against the setting sun, is a fleet larger than any they've seen. Hundreds of ships bearing banners with the 3-headed dragon, and circling above the fleet, their wings blotting out the sun, are 3 dragons. Real dragons. Living, breathing, terrifyingly real dragons. Daenerys Targaryen has come to Westeros. The meeting is arranged on neutral ground, a field between the armies, with pavilions set up for the various parties. Stannis comes with Ned and Robb, their forces arrayed behind them but standing down. From the direction of the coast comes Aegon with his advisors and the Golden Company's commanders. And from the ships comes Daenerys Targaryen, young and silver-haired, and followed by 3 dragons that land nearby. Their presence making everyone acutely aware of how the balance of power is shifted. Daenerys speaks first, her voice carrying the authority of someone who's conquered cities and freed slaves.
I am Daenerys of House Targaryen, daughter of Aerys, rightful queen of the Andals in the First Men. I have come to reclaim what was stolen from my family.
Your family lost the throne through madness and cruelty. My brother won it through strength of arms and the support of the realm. Whatever claim you think you have, it died when Aerys died.
I am Aegon, son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Elia Martell. I was saved as a babe while my mother and sister were murdered. I have spent my life preparing to return and restore my family's rightful place. And I'm Eddard Stark, who fought in the rebellion that overthrew your family because your grandfather burned my father and brother alive for no crime but demanding justice. The realm bled to be free of a Targaryen rule. Why should we accept it again?
Because I am not my father. Because Aegon is not his grandfather. Because the realm doesn't need more war. It needs peace and order. And like it or not, Lord Stark, I have 3 dragons. I could burn every army in Westeros if I choose. But I didn't come here to rule ash and bone. I came to be a queen worthy of the throne.
The negotiations continue through the day and into the night. Stannis argues law and succession. Aegon argues birthright and legitimacy. Daenerys argues power and the reality that she could conquer by force if she chose. Ned and Robb argue for peace and stability, for an end to the bloodshed that's torn the realm apart. Finally, a compromise emerges. It's not perfect, not what anyone wanted, but it's workable. Aegon and Daenerys will marry, uniting their claims and their strengths. They'll rule jointly, combining Aegon's claim through Rhaegar with Daenerys' actual power through the dragons. But they're young and new to Westeros, unfamiliar with its politics and people, so Stannis will serve as Lord Protector and Hand of the King, ruling in their names until his death, teaching them the realm and its governance. When Stannis dies, the Targaryen dynasty will begin again in truth, but with rulers who've been trained in justice and law by one of the most rigid adherents to both that Westeros has ever seen. It's not what Stannis wanted. He came so close to the throne, fought and bled for it, but he's pragmatic enough to recognize reality. He can't fight dragons. He can't fight the Golden Company and Dorne and exhaust his own forces in the process. And perhaps, in teaching these young Targaryens how to rule justly, he can prevent another mad king from emerging. The realm slowly knits itself back together under this new arrangement. Lords who supported different claims are offered pardons in exchange for fealty. The war is declared over, and the new regime begins organizing the 7 kingdoms. Ned returns to Winterfell, exhausted and grateful to be done with southern politics. But before he leaves King's Landing, he has one final responsibility. He goes to Jon Snow, his bastard son, who's served as his squire through the campaign, and tells him the truth. They sit in a quiet garden in the castle, the noise of the city distant, and Ned finally shares the secret he's kept for 17 years.
Your mother wasn't some tavern wench, Jon. She was Lyanna Stark, my sister, and your father was Rhaegar Targaryen. You're not my bastard. You're my nephew. You're a Targaryen by blood, though I raised you as a Snow to keep you safe.
Jon stares at his uncle, the world reorganizing around this revelation.
Why tell me now? Because the Targaryens rule again. And you have a family you should know. Daenerys is your aunt. Aegon is your half-brother. You deserve to know who you are.
Jon meets Daenerys and Aegon, awkward and uncertain, but they welcome him. These last Targaryens finding family in each other, and eventually, to give Jon a place and position worthy of his blood, they grant him Dragonstone to rule. The ancient seat of House Targaryen becomes his home, and Jon Snow becomes Jon Targaryen, Lord of Dragonstone. The realm settles into this new order. Marriages are arranged to cement alliances and heal wounds. Shireen Baratheon, Stannis' daughter, is betrothed to Rickon Stark, uniting the Baratheons and Starks and combining the Reach and Crownlands under their eventual rule. Robb Stark is betrothed to Marcella Lannister, now acknowledged as a bastard, but still valuable as a tie to ensure the Westerlands remain loyal. The betrothal sends a message. The past is forgiven, but not forgotten, and House Lannister will be watched. In the Vale, Lysa Arryn's erratic rule is ended. She's deposed quickly, sent to live in a comfortable exile in the Fingers. Sansa Stark, beautiful and clever, is married to Robin Arryn, bringing the Vale firmly into the Stark sphere of influence and ensuring that the key region won't fall into chaos again. The realm has been transformed by chaos following Jaime Lannister's death. The Lannisters, once the most powerful house, are reduced to a shadow of their former glory, ruling only the Westerlands under Tyrion's pragmatic leadership. The Baratheons, through Shireen, will eventually rule the Heartlands. The Starks expanded their influence dramatically, and the Targaryens sit the Iron Throne again, but tempered by Stannis' rigid justice and Ned's example of honor. The small folk slowly recover from the wars. Fields are replanted, villages are rebuilt. The scars remain, but healing begins. And in Winterfell, Ned Stark sits in his solar, looking out over the Godswood and the lands he fought to protect. He survived the Game of Thrones that kills so many. He helped bring peace to a fractured realm. And most importantly, he brought his children home safely. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you'd like to join us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.